For more original stories, subscribe to Audio Tales. Now, let's begin this one. The ordinary Tuesday morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting long, familiar shadows across the worn wooden table. Arthur, a man in his early 40s, with the steady, reliable air of a man who managed a medium-sized marketing department, was stirring his coffee. He liked his routines, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the scent of freshly brewed coffee, the morning news droning softly from the living room. It was predictable, comfortable, just like his marriage to Clara. Or so he thought. The sharp, decisive thud of something landing in the mailbox outside barely registered. He was already thinking about his first meeting of the day, mentally rehearsing his presentation. He finished his coffee, rinsed the mug, and headed for the door, picking up his briefcase. Just as he was about to leave, his gaze snagged on the mailbox flag, still upright. Mail. He sighed. Always bills, mostly. With a mild sense of annoyance at the interruption to his precise morning schedule, he stepped outside, pulled open the small metal door, and retrieved a thick, official-looking envelope. The return address was a law firm he didn't recognize. His brow furrowed. What could this be? Maybe something for Clara? A legal document for her volunteer work? He ripped open the envelope without much thought, and his eyes scanned the formal, cold text. The first word hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath. Divorce. The word seemed to vibrate in the quiet morning air, an ugly, shattering sound. Divorce. His hand trembled, the paper rustling like dry leaves. His eyes raced across the document. The legal jargon a blur of incomprehensible terms, but the meaning was terrifyingly clear. Clara was divorcing him. Clara. His wife of 15 years. The woman he had shared countless meals with, hundreds of silent evenings, a lifetime of small, unremarkable moments that, until this very second, he had always believed added up to a perfectly solid, content marriage. But there it was, in stark, undeniable black and white. Petition for dissolution of marriage. He stumbled back, leaning against the cold brick of the house, the neatly manicured lawn suddenly seeming alien beneath his feet. His world, which had been so orderly and predictable just moments ago, spun wildly on its axis. He felt a sudden, inexplicable dizziness, as if the ground itself were swaying. He reread the word, then again, hoping it was a mistake, a prank, a nightmare from which he would soon wake up. But the paper felt real, cold, and unforgiving in his trembling hand. And then he noticed something else. Tucked behind the thick stack of legal papers, held together by a simple paperclip, was a small, cream-colored stack of envelopes. 7, to be exact, each one handwritten, each one addressed to him, and each one bearing a different return address, from different names. His heart, which had been beating a frantic rhythm of panic, suddenly stuttered. This was not just a divorce. This was something else entirely. This was a puzzle, a cruel, unexpected, and utterly baffling mystery that had just landed on his doorstep, shattering his entire life in one devastating blow. The first envelope on top had no sender name, only a printed address. He swallowed hard, the taste of ash in his mouth. What could these be? And why would they come with divorce papers? The tension, which had initially been pure shock, now began to rise, twisting into a gnawing knot of intense curiosity and profound dread. The first letter was crisp, formal, almost detached, unlike the others. It was from Mr. Harrison, Clara's lawyer. It was short, to the point, and offered little comfort or explanation. Mr. Davies, my client, Clara Davies has instructed me to file the enclosed petition. She has also requested that I include 7 personal letters that she wishes you to receive. These letters contain insights into her decision and aspects of her life she wishes to share. Please understand, this firm represents Ms. Davies's interests exclusively. It was cold, professional, and gave Arthur no real answers, only solidifying the chilling reality of the divorce. It confirmed that Clara was serious, that this wasn't a sudden fit of anger. This was planned. And the letters? They felt like a strange, almost mocking gesture. Why send him letters with the divorce papers? What could Clara possibly want him to know now? After 15 years of a marriage he had always considered open and honest. His mind raced, his hands clammy. This wasn't a fight he could win, or even understand. This was a unilateral decision, delivered by certified mail, accompanied by a collection of mysterious confessions. His initial shock was slowly replaced by a bitter resentment, a deep sense of betrayal. He felt like a stranger in his own home, staring at a life that had just been declared over, without a single word of warning. He walked mechanically back inside, the divorce papers and the stack of letters clutched in his hand. The familiar warmth of his home now felt cold, alien. He sat down heavily at the kitchen table, the sound of the papers crinkling in the silence. He pushed the divorce documents aside, their stark legal terms too painful to reread. His gaze fixed on the stack of 7 letters. Each envelope was different, some a pristine white, others slightly worn, one even a pale blue. The handwriting varied, too, from elegant cursive to hurried scrawls. It was clear these weren't all from Clara. Who were these people? What could they possibly know about his wife, about their marriage, that he didn't? He picked up the first of the personal letters. The envelope was a soft cream color, with a familiar, elegant handwriting on the front. It was from Eleanor, Clara's best friend since college. Eleanor. He knew Eleanor well, or thought he did. She was bubbly, outspoken, a constant presence at their social gatherings. Why would Eleanor be writing to him about Clara? He felt a fresh wave of anxiety mixed with a growing sense of dread. He carefully opened the envelope, as if handling something fragile that might shatter at a touch. The paper inside was thick, high quality, and smelled faintly of lavender, a scent he associated with Clara's favorite bath salts. He unfolded it, his eyes scanning the first few lines, his heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm against his ribs. Eleanor's letter began without preamble, her familiar, sometimes overly enthusiastic tone muted by the gravity of her words. "Arthur, I know this must be incredibly painful for you. Clara asked me to write this. She said you deserve to know some things that, well, that she couldn't bring herself to tell you directly, not face to face." A wave of anger flashed through. Him? Couldn't tell him directly? After all their years together? The gall of it. But he kept reading. Eleanor then spoke of Clara's hidden struggles, moments when Clara confided in her, moments Arthur was oblivious to. She described Clara's quiet sacrifices, particularly early in their marriage when Arthur was striving to build his career. Clara had given up a scholarship for a prestigious art program abroad to support him, a decision Arthur had always believed was mutual, a practical choice for their future. Eleanor revealed Clara's profound artistic talent, how she would spend hours sketching in secret, creating vibrant worlds on paper, only to put them away, unseen, unacknowledged. She buried a part of herself, Arthur, Eleanor wrote, because she felt it was what you needed her to do, what your life together demanded. The words hit him hard. He remembered bits of conversations, years ago, about her art, but he'd always dismissed them as a hobby, something she did for fun, not a deep-seated passion. He was so focused on their shared financial stability, on their comfortable future, that he hadn't seen the vibrant, passionate artist slowly fading within the practical, dependable wife. The letter moved on, talking about how Clara felt increasingly invisible, how her aspirations felt unheard, how she often felt like a supporting character in his life, rather than an equal partner in their own. "She loved you fiercely, Arthur," Eleanor concluded, "but she also started to disappear into the shadow of your expectations. She tried to tell you, in her quiet ways, but you were never quite listening." The letter ended there, leaving Arthur reeling. Not only was he blindsided by the divorce, but now he was blindsided by the revelation that his wife, the woman he thought he knew completely, had harbored a hidden, artistic soul, suppressed dreams, and a profound sense of loneliness within their shared life. The anger he felt earlier now mingled with a bitter pang of regret. Had he really been so blind, so self-absorbed? He put Eleanor's letter down, his hand automatically reaching for the next one, his heart thumping with a mixture of dread and an insatiable need to uncover more. The next letter was in a child's handwriting, slightly wobbly but clearly legible. It was from Maya, a name Arthur vaguely recognized as one of the children Clara tutored at the local community center. Maya, now a teenager, wrote with a surprising maturity. "Mr. Davies, Clara always said you were a good man, even when she was sad." Sad? Clara? The cheerful, optimistic woman who always had a smile? He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Maya wrote about how Clara had mentored her, not just in school subjects, but in life. Maya came from a difficult background, and Clara had spent countless evenings guiding her, listening to her, helping her navigate complex family issues, often sacrificing her own free time. Arthur vaguely remembered Clara being out late sometimes, saying she was helping out at the center. He'd dismissed it as her usual kindness, never realizing the depth of her involvement, the profound impact she had on individual lives. "When my scholarship almost fell through," Maya wrote, "Clara worked extra shifts, cleaning offices at night, so I could pay the application fees. She never told anyone. She just said she had some freelance work." Arthur's breath hitched. Cleaning offices? Clara? His wife, who had a perfectly respectable job as a graphic designer? The idea was absurd, yet the sincerity in Maya's words was undeniable. He had no memory of her freelance work, no recollection of her coming home late, tired, or complaining about extra shifts. He had been too caught up in his own busy world, too focused on his corporate ladder climbing to notice. Maya's letter was a testament to Clara's selfless acts of kindness, her quiet dedication to helping others, often at personal cost, without ever seeking recognition or even revealing it to her own husband. This was a side of Clara, a secret life of profound compassion and quiet heroism that Arthur had never seen. The letter ended with Maya expressing her boundless gratitude, calling Clara her guardian angel. Arthur felt a cold shame wash over him. He had always been proud of Clara's volunteer work, seeing it as a noble hobby, something to fill her time. He never understood it was a deep, fundamental part of who she was, a place where she poured her boundless empathy and made a real difference, often in ways he couldn't imagine. He had been so focused on his own career, his own achievements, that he had become oblivious to the vast, rich landscape of his wife's inner world, a landscape now being revealed to him, one painful letter at a time. The curiosity was now intertwined with a growing sense of remorse. a desperate need to uncover every hidden truth about the woman he thought he knew so intimately. The third letter was from David, a name Arthur vaguely recognized from a few charity galas Clara had dragged him to. David was a coordinator for a local homeless shelter where Clara volunteered. His letter was stark, devoid of sentimentality, focusing instead on Clara's unwavering dedication and quiet resilience. Arthur, you probably know Clara volunteered with us. What you might not know is the sheer depth of her commitment, especially during the Silent Winter campaign 2 years ago. Arthur remembered the Silent Winter. It was a particularly brutal season, with record-breaking cold and a surge in homelessness. He'd been busy with a major project at work then, often coming home late, stressed, and distracted. David's letter painted a vivid picture of Clara's relentless efforts. She organized food drives, spent nights walking the streets to check on rough sleepers, and even, on several occasions, used her own money to secure emergency motel rooms for families with children when the shelter was completely full. There was one night, David wrote, when a young mother with a newborn was turned away. Clara didn't hesitate. She paid for a week at a nearby motel out of her own pocket, and she spent the entire night there, making sure they were settled, safe. She risked her own safety, Arthur, her own well-being, for total strangers. Arthur felt a tremor run through him. Clara, alone, late at night, in a potentially dangerous part of town, spending her own money for strangers? He had absolutely no knowledge of this. He had been oblivious. While he was comfortably at home, perhaps watching TV or working late, his wife was out there, on the front lines, quietly performing acts of profound compassion and courage. The letter also hinted at something deeper. Clara always said she understood what it felt like to be without a home, without a safe place, even if only for a short time. That sentence struck Arthur with particular force. Without a home? Clara had always grown up in a stable middle-class family. This statement made no sense. It was a fragment of a past he couldn't reconcile with the woman he married. A new layer of mystery was added to the already complex portrait of his wife. David's letter ended by commending Clara's quiet strength and her powerful empathy, implying that her dedication stemmed from a deep personal understanding of hardship. Arthur felt a cold dread settle in. What was this new revelation? What hidden past did Clara carry that he knew nothing about? Each letter peeled back a layer, revealing a woman far more complex, more sacrificial, and more secretive than he had ever imagined. His hands shook as he reached for the next envelope. The desire to uncover the truth, now an overwhelming, almost painful compulsion. The fourth letter was from Aunt Beatrice, an elderly, somewhat eccentric, distant relative of Clara's, whom Arthur had only met a handful of times at large family gatherings. He remembered her as a kindly but frail woman. Her handwriting was shaky, the ink slightly faded, suggesting the letter had been written with great effort. Her words, however, were sharp and poignant, cutting through the polite surface of family interactions. Arthur, you were always a good provider for Clara, but you never knew the silent battles she fought long before you came along. Aunt Beatrice wrote of Clara's early childhood, a period Arthur knew little about beyond the idealized stories Clara sometimes told. She detailed a turbulent time when Clara's parents, due to unforeseen financial hardship and a devastating fire that destroyed their family home, lost everything. For nearly a year, when Clara was just 10 years old, her family had to live in a temporary shelter, moving from place to place, dependent on the kindness of strangers. Clara always remembered the feeling of not having a safe, permanent bed. Aunt Beatrice explained. That's why she poured her heart into the shelter work. She saw herself in every lost soul, every scared child. A wave of shock washed over Arthur. Clara? Homeless? He had always thought she had a perfectly comfortable upbringing. This was a profound secret, a foundational trauma she had never shared with him, not even in their most intimate moments. This explained David's cryptic sentence, the deep empathy Clara felt for the homeless. It wasn't just abstract compassion. It was born from lived experience. The letter also spoke of Clara's younger brother, Leo, who suffered from severe health issues. Aunt Beatrice recounted how Clara, even as a teenager, took on a significant burden of responsibility for Leo's care, often sacrificing her own adolescence, her dreams, and even her early educational opportunities to help her struggling parents. "She grew up too fast, Arthur," Beatrice wrote. "She always carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, quietly, fiercely. She didn't want to burden you with her past, so she kept it to herself." The letter ended with a loving but firm reminder of Clara's incredible strength and her silent suffering. Arthur felt a profound ache in his chest, a mix of sorrow and overwhelming guilt. He had known Leo was ill, but he had no idea of the extent of Clara's direct involvement, the depth of her sacrifice. He had seen Clara as an independent woman, capable and strong, but he had never understood the crucible in which that strength was forged. He had been so blind, so focused on his own life, that he had missed the profound emotional scars and the quiet heroism that defined the woman he married. The safe, permanent bed he had provided for her was not just a home, but a healing space, a return to stability she had longed for since childhood. But even there, he now saw, he had failed to truly see her, to understand the depths of her past. He felt a desperate need to know what else had been hidden from him, what other profound truths about Clara were yet to be revealed. The stack of letters, though dwindling, held more secrets, more fragments of a life he never knew existed. The fifth letter was thin, almost transparent, the paper feeling fragile under Arthur's fingers. The return address was unfamiliar, a medical facility in a city far from theirs. The sender's name was Dr. Evelyn Reed. A doctor. A cold wave of dread washed over him. This was it, he thought, the reveal of a secret illness, a devastating diagnosis. He braced himself, his heart hammering in his chest, for the worst. The letter was formal, yet held a tone of deep respect for Clara. It confirmed that Clara had indeed been a patient, but not for a physical ailment. "Mr. Davies, I am writing to you at Clara's request. For the past 3 years, Clara has been a patient of mine, receiving intensive therapy for severe post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and chronic anxiety." PTSD? Arthur's mind reeled. Clara. He had never known her to suffer from anything more than occasional stress. He'd seen her as unflappable, resilient. The doctor's letter explained that the PTSD stemmed from a traumatic event she had witnessed years ago, an event Arthur dimly remembered Clara mentioning as a vague bad experience during her college years when she was briefly involved in journalism. Dr. Reed detailed a horrific incident where Clara, as a young, aspiring journalist, had been present during a violent incident at a local protest, narrowly escaping serious harm, but witnessing terrible injuries and violence. The experience had deeply scarred her, leading to recurring nightmares, debilitating panic attacks, and an overwhelming fear of large crowds or unpredictable situations. "She kept it hidden, Mr. Davies," Dr. Reed wrote, "because she believed it would burden you or that you wouldn't understand the depth of her struggle. She worked incredibly hard to manage it, especially as your career grew and your social life expanded. She attended every event, every party, despite the profound internal turmoil it caused her. She did it for you. Arthur felt a profound pang of guilt. He had always admired Clara's grace at social events, her effortless ability to blend in and charm his colleagues. He never knew that beneath that composed exterior, she was fighting a silent, terrifying battle with her own mind. Sieg. Emotional conflict within Arthur reached a new peak. He was flooded with regret for his ignorance, for his self-absorption, for never truly seeing the inner turmoil of the woman he had vowed to cherish. The doctor's letter also revealed that Clara's mental health had been significantly impacted by the prolonged stress of suppressing her trauma, and that it had started to take a toll on her physical well-being. The plot twist wasn't an illness that was consuming her, but a hidden psychological battle that had shaped her life, and now, finally, explained so much of her seemingly inexplicable behavior and sacrifices. The letter concluded by stating that Clara had made immense progress in therapy, but that the emotional toll of maintaining a perfect facade while battling her inner demons had become unsustainable within the constraints of their marriage. She needed a different kind of peace, a quieter life, away from the constant pressure she felt to be the perfect wife. Arthur put the letter down, his hands shaking, his eyes blurred with unshed tears. He had been so blind, so profoundly unaware of the depths of his wife's suffering. The divorce, which he had initially seen as an act of cold abandonment, now began to take on a new, heart-wrenching meaning. He had to know more. There was only one letter left. The sixth letter, thin and pristine, felt different. It was from Clara herself. Her own distinctive handwriting filled the envelope, firm and clear. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle. Arthur's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic, almost painful rhythm. He opened it, his hands shaking, and began to read, her familiar voice resonating in his mind, but with a tone he had never heard before. A mixture of tenderness, profound sadness, and a quiet, resolute strength. "My dearest Arthur," the letter began, and the affectionate greeting, so familiar yet so unexpected in this context, brought a fresh wave of tears to his eyes. "If you are reading this, the divorce papers have arrived. I know this must feel like a brutal betrayal, and for that, I am truly sorry. But please, try to understand. This is not about a lack of love. It is about a love so deep that I had to make the hardest decision of my life for both of us." She continued, her words painting a picture of her life, tying together the threads of the previous letters. She explained why she kept her childhood trauma and her PTSD a secret. "I wanted to be your rock, Arthur, not a burden. I wanted to be the strong, joyful partner you deserved, not the one who carried a heavy past." She spoke of her suppressed artistic dreams, her secret night shifts, her profound dedication to the homeless shelter. "I found parts of myself in those places, Arthur, parts that felt lost or hidden in the life we built. I know you loved me in your way, but you never truly saw the woman beneath the surface, the one who yearned for a different kind of freedom, a different kind of peace." Then came the final, devastating truth, the true core of the plot twist that explained everything. "But there's another reason, Arthur, a reason I couldn't share with you face to face, a reason that made the divorce, despite my love for you, a necessary act of mercy. My PTSD, combined with years of repressed stress and unaddressed trauma, has led to a diagnosis of a rare aggressive form of cardiomyopathy. My heart, it's failing, Arthur. The doctors say it's terminal. I don't have long. The words blurred before Arthur's eyes, but their meaning was brutally clear. His wife, his Clara, was dying. The divorce wasn't a rejection. It was an act of profound, selfless love, a desperate attempt to spare him the agonizing pain of watching her fade, of becoming her caretaker, of tying him to a future filled with inevitable grief and loss. I couldn't bear to see you suffer. Arthur, she wrote, her words echoing his own earlier thoughts about Isabella. I couldn't bear for you to put your life on hold, to live in mourning while I was still here. I wanted you to remember me as I was, as the vibrant woman you loved, not the one ravaged by illness. I wanted you to be free, to find happiness again, a full life, unburdened by my declining health. She explained that the move to the remote island, which Matthias had also sought, was to reconnect with her roots, to live her final days in peace, surrounded by nature, unburdened by societal expectations. Matthias was not a lover in the conventional sense, but a fellow soul, a friend who understood the raw, unvarnished truth of her situation, who offered her the peace and space she needed. The letter concluded with words that tore through Arthur's heart. I will always love you, Arthur. Live fully. Find your own true self, the one you might have also forgotten in our comfortable life. And please, forgive me for this last, painful act of love. Remember the good times, remember the laughter, and know that my heart, even as it fails, holds you always. Goodbye, my dear Arthur. The profound emotional conflict within Arthur became a devastating surge of pain, guilt, and an overwhelming, crushing wave of a love so deep it defied understanding. He was not just heartbroken, he was shattered. He had been so blind, so self-absorbed, that he had missed not only her hidden struggles and sacrifices, but also the ultimate silent battle she was fighting. The divorce was not a betrayal. It was the ultimate act of self-sacrifice, a final, agonizing gift of freedom. The sheer weight of her love and her pain settled over him, leaving him breathless and utterly undone. Days turned into a week, then months. The house remained silent, but now it was a different kind of silence, a heavy, hallowed space filled with the echoes of a love he had misunderstood, a life he had failed to truly see. Arthur walked around like a ghost, the weight of Clara's last letter a constant, crushing presence in his mind. He couldn't go to work, couldn't focus. He reread the letters, every single one, searching for clues he had missed, for opportunities he had squandered. He saw Clara in every corner of their home, her favorite armchair, the half-finished knitting project on the sofa, the faint scent of her perfume lingering on his pillow. He grieved not just for the loss of his wife, but for the loss of the Clara he never knew, the vibrant, suffering, selfless woman revealed only in her final, heartbreaking act. The regret was a constant, gnawing ache. Why hadn't he listened more? Why hadn't he seen past his own comfortable routine, his own ambitions? Why had he allowed her to carry such immense burdens alone? He felt a profound urge to understand the disease, to understand Clara's last journey. He researched cardiomyopathy, read medical journals, and spoke to doctors, trying to grasp the cruel reality of her final days. He also reached out to Matthias, the man who had been her confidant in her final journey. Matthias, gentle and grieving himself, confirmed Clara's courage, her resilience, and her profound love for Arthur, despite her decision. He described her peaceful final moments on the island, surrounded by the nature she cherished, her last breath a whisper carried by the ocean breeze. Arthur found himself staring at old photos of Clara, seeing her with new eyes. The subtle tension in her jaw in a crowded room, the faint weariness in her eyes after a long day of volunteer work, the quiet intensity when she spoke of environmental issues, all were now crystal clear, illuminated by the brutal, beautiful truth of her secret life. He realized that the surprise party he had expected had been a delusion, a symptom of his own self-centeredness. The wedding farewell he received was a much more profound, if agonizing, gift. The truth about the woman he loved, and a devastating wake-up call to the life he had been living. The deep emotional conflict within him had finally resolved, not into happiness, but into a profound, painful acceptance, mixed with an unshakable determination to live a life worthy of her sacrifice. The final hook of curiosity, the question of what he would do next, was no longer about Clara's secrets, but about his own transformation. In the quiet aftermath of Clara's death, Arthur decided to sell their house. It was too full of ghosts, too many unspoken words. He took a leave of absence from his job, needing space to breathe, to think, to simply be. He started small, enrolling in an evening art class, something Clara would have loved. He wasn't a natural artist, but the act of creating, of putting emotion onto canvas, was deeply therapeutic. He also began volunteering at the very same homeless shelter where Clara had dedicated so much of her life. He started by simply serving meals, but soon his organizational skills, honed in the corporate world, found a new, meaningful application. He helped streamline their operations, secured donations, and, remembering Clara's quiet acts, discreetly helped a young mother find temporary housing when the shelter was full. He started to see the faces of the people there, not just as a mass, but as individuals, each with a story, each battling their own silent struggles. This was the world Clara had inhabited, the true essence of her spirit. A year later, Arthur found himself on a small plane, headed for the Bahian island. He wasn't there for Matthias, though they had kept in touch, sharing stories and memories of Clara. He was there to honor her, to visit the place where she found her final peace. He hiked the familiar trail, the one Matthias had drawn in Clara's diary, and found the small wooden cabin. It was quiet, peaceful, almost serene. He stood on the porch, looking out at the endless ocean, feeling a sense of profound connection to Clara, to Matthias, to the raw, untamed beauty of nature. He imagined her there, breathing freely, finally at peace. He thought about the gift box on the mantelpiece, the one he found on the day the divorce papers arrived. He had opened it eventually. Inside was a small, hand-carved wooden bird, wings outstretched, soaring, and a note in Clara's elegant script. "Fly, Arthur. Be free." He realized then that the divorce, the letters, her sacrifice, it was all a profound gift, a painful, agonizing gift of freedom. She had freed him from a future of sorrow, but more importantly, she had freed him from his own blindness, from the complacent life he had built, pushing him towards a deeper understanding of love, of self-sacrifice, and of the profound beauty of living authentically. He had lost his wife, but in doing so, he had found himself, a man capable of greater empathy, a deeper love, and a broader purpose. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath of the salty air, and smiled. It wasn't the happy ending he once expected, but it was a meaningful one, a life transformed by an unexpected, agonizing farewell that ultimately gave him a new beginning. He opened his eyes, ready to face the world, no longer afraid of its surprises, no longer blind to its hidden depths. He knew Clara was with him, not as a ghost, but as a guiding light, a silent whisper in the wind that always urged him to fly. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for your time. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. It truly helps the channel. Click the video on screen, and I'll see you there.